game to focus on tonight, but can we just start with the Olympics and the women's game last night, and if you were able to watch it, just your impressions of that moment that happened?
Yeah, really exciting game. They had an amazing tournament, from start to finish, and I was able to watch, I think maybe half the game and had to go to bed. So, but it was great. They an amazing team, an amazing accomplishment, and they should be really proud.
Marie-Philippe Poulin is one of those players that whenever there's a big moment, she's just constantly scoring goals. As someone who tries to do the same in big moments, how much respect do you have for someone that just continues to be able to perform on that stage?
Yeah, it's so impressive. She's done it time and time again, and she did it again last night. So, it's an amazing accomplishment for her and for her team, and for all the women that played. It was really, really impressive from start to finish.
If I can just double down on that, because you've been in those shoes where, it's a big gold medal game somewhere and everyone's looking at Connor McDavid to have a big game, and Poulin just does it 4 Olympics in a row. She doesn't just get a couple assists, she scores huge goals. Like, what's that take?
Yeah, it takes, first and foremost, a great player. It takes someone that doesn't shy away from those moments, and she certainly hasn't done that. Like I said, she's done it time and time again, and it's so impressive to see what she's done.
Okay, so you haven't been able to go to the last 2 Olympics. You've been outspoken about that. Is it difficult for you to watch that game last night as a guy that could have been there having the same experience?
It's not about me today. Not about anything else other than what they did over there, and it's such a big accomplishment, and just as a Canadian, just really proud of what they did accomplish, and how well they performed.
Connor, moving ahead to tonight, in 2017, you guys were very good 5-on-5. I think like plus 26 or 7. The last 11 games, you're plus 9 5-on-5. Do you see a connection that your team is better 5-on-5 in both zones, defensively and offensively, than you have been in a few years?
Just a little more connected all over the ice. Just finding, there's kind of layers all over the ice, and 5 guys kind of around the puck a lot more. So that certainly helps.
And, the 5-on-5 is really won you guys a lot of games lately. The power play for your level obviously isn't where you want it to be. You're getting similar amount of shots. The last game, the Kings really pressured you guys. Have teams played you different? What do you think you guys have to tweak to get your power play back to where you want it to be?
Yeah, I mean, teams are going to change it up. We've had teams that are really passive and sit back, and LA last game was super aggressive, and they wanted to challenge us. So, we're going to see different kills, and they're going to adapt, and now we gotta change what we're doing, and not change what we're doing, but make some tweaks here and there, and get it back on track.
Hey, Connor, one more little thing on the Olympics. You've got Darnell Nurse, who's a #1 defenseman in the NHL, and he's barely the most famous athlete in his family. Do you guys kind of marvel at what that crew's been able to accomplish?
I don't know what it is in the Nurse blood, but it's pretty amazing. They've produced just amazing athletes, just from top to bottom through that whole family. So Darnell's certainly one of them. But it's amazing to see what that family's done.
There has to be like a base, a commitment, or a work ethic at the heart of that. It's not just you're not born that way.
No, for sure. I think they all push each other. They all push each other to be better, and it's I'm sure they're a proud group today, just with everything that Sarah's accomplished, and they always seem to have some family member at these big events, and obviously Nurse, he's still playing great in the NHL, so it's impressive to see.
I don't want to read too much into it, but through a few games here, you've got different lines scoring goals. You've got, fourth line players that are playing valuable and meaningful minutes. Do you feel like the group as a whole is just kind of empowered? Everybody's chipping in a meaningful way right now, and how important is that? Yeah,
it's really important. I think the wins have been total team efforts, and that's so important. And I think it's been good.
At the start of this, you were asked about minutes, and if your guys' minutes come down as the guys who play the most, you said whatever it takes to win. We've seen, them come down a little bit. Are you noticing a difference with maybe late in games how much energy you have left? Is there something noticeable in the deployment that has affected you in any way?
Yeah, not really. Maybe a little bit. I'm not sure. Like I said, whatever Woody wants to do, I'm all on board.
Just one for me. As journalists, we always face this when there's a coaching change, and it's the coaching bump or whatever we want to call it. The previous coaches wanted you guys to probably, I assume, to be more connected in all three zones and to play tighter defense and all those things. Mike Smith said the other day that this team, the players, have looked at this and said, okay, it's now or never. Is this about the players saying it's now or never, this better 5-on-5 play, or has Woody come in and given you some different plans, some different tweaks?
I would say it's probably a little bit of both there. Woody's certainly come in and he's put his touches on things, and as players, obviously, whenever there's a coaching change, I think across the league, you always see a little bit of a spike. So, it's always different to get a fresh voice in there, and sometimes that helps. And it's like I said, it's only been 3 games, and we got a long way to go.
Thanks, Connor. Hey, Darnell.
Hey.
Connor said that he did his best to stay up, but had to head to bed at a certain point. I imagine you probably watched the whole thing last night in that game. Just your thoughts on that moment that happened.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I think it's always a very proud moment when you have a family member play in the Olympics for one, and win a gold medal, and then the tournament that Sarah had. It was fun to watch start to finish the whole tournament. I know Uncle Roger and Aunt Michelle and my cousins EJ and Isaac are playing on Cloud 9 too, their family. So it was awesome to see, and it was fun to follow along the whole way. And she earned everything, and hope they get to celebrate.
Would you say that, you guys are similar in terms of the way you approach being athletes, or is there something a little different that fuels her? Like, how can you describe to us what makes her as successful as she is?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of similarities, and I think that it comes, like our family was very, both our fathers are very hardworking, very, very driven. So that's kind of where it all starts. And then from there, taking every opportunity that you get and making the most of it. And that's what she did. So she's very driven, works as hard as anyone I know, and earns everything that she's gotten to this point. And it's great to see her really just get everything she deserves.
Sarah's a perfect example of a player who started, came in the program young and started at the bottom, and she's worked her way up to now she's like a leading scorer and a driving player on that team. When you watch her play, and you've watched her play all along, can you let us in on maybe some of the things you watched her do last night and the way she plays last night that, what's she improved on? What's better? What makes her the player that she wasn't maybe a couple of years ago? Yeah,
I know the last Olympics and even leading up, she probably had more of the MO of being a checker and someone hard to play against, and she was able to bring the offensive side too. She set a record, and shows that she's a complete package as a player. So it was fun to see, and it all comes from work. She just worked her way to the opportunities to play on the big lines, and when she got those opportunities, just made the most of it.
to the Oilers now. Your team your 5-on-5 plays a lot better. You're checking a lot better, goals against a lot better. Jay, Mike Smith said the other day that the players looked at this situation and said it's now or never. Is this improvement more on the players buckling down, or is a lot of it some new plan that Jay Woodcroft has, a new game plan, new tweaks?
Jay's come in and done a great job of bringing in the system, not tweaking too much, but enough that plays to the strengths of our team, and I think the buy-in has definitely been there, and but at the end of the day, it's on the players in the room, and for us, we know that at this point, we have to go out there and perform no matter who's behind us. But Jay and Dave have done a great job of coming in here and setting the template.
What kind of fan are you, Darnell, back to the Olympics for a second, especially with, a bloodline attached? Do you get pretty intense? Are you swearing at the TV? What kind of fan are you?
No, honestly, when it comes to hockey, I'm pretty reserved. I will honestly say when I watch basketball, like when I watch my sister play, I'm like standing up, clapping, screaming at the TV. But when it's hockey, I'm definitely more reserved. So that's kind of fun.
And just to follow up a little bit on Speck's question with respect to the allocation of minutes, is it something you've noticed with 7 defensemen in the lineup? Do you feel any of a different rhythm to the game?
No, I wouldn't say so. Obviously, get to go out there and play against the best players on each team each and every night, and that's a role I love to play. So it's been great. The messaging has been great. The allocation, just for me, be able to look down the bench and see their top guys coming out and hopping out and knowing that's a responsibility. That's something I relish as a competitor.
Darnell over here, can you talk to Niemelainen how he loves to hit people? I mean, he kind of reminds me of that McNabb who plays in Vegas. So you're coming down his side and he's looking to really belt people.
Yeah, he is. He's every time he defends so well and puts people in positions where he can finish. And when he finishes, he throws everything into it. So he's been great to watch. He competes so hard, and that really drives the compete in the whole group.
Thank you.
I was going to ask about that, Darnell. He's got a real dimension to his game. You add in Evander Kane, who won't back down from guys. Is that infectious? You're obviously an aggressive player when you need to be or can be. Having more guys like that, do you feel a different energy in your team? Yeah, for sure, guys. Anytime you have more of that, people just seem to feed off it. So those guys come out and play hard each and every night, and it drags some people that maybe aren't so often at doing it. And as a group, it makes the group harder to play against, which is what you want. And lastly, the Pacific Division, you guys really dominated it. You're 12-3. Any reason why? It's obviously key, especially in the NHL playoff format, where the first 2 rounds are within the division. What's the key to your success in the Pacific? I wouldn't say you approach the game the same way. It's just you get into these games, and you know the importance of them, especially now. I mean, sure, there's 35, 36 games left in the season, but it feels like it's a stretch run. It feels like you're in the last 20, and that importance is even heightened when you play against your own division. So we know the importance of the games. We know how tight our division, how tight our conference usually is, and that gives you extra juice whenever you're playing someone in your own division.
Morning, guys.
Okay, sure. Maybe to tonight's game in a minute, but did you have I don't know if head coaches have time to watch other games, but that Olympic game last night with the Canadian women, and like the hockey world seemed to be zeroing in on it. Can an NHL head coach do that a bit?
I didn't get to see the full game. I saw bits and pieces of it, and obviously the highlights this morning, and I'm proud Canadian, proud of our women's national team, and what an exciting time for all involved there.
To tonight's game, there's lots that's been going well for your group. If you were to put your finger on what you're most happy with at this point through 3 games that you want to make sure it continues, what would it be?
Well, I think the work ethic has been off the charts. We've asked the players to play a demanding style of hockey, and we've had attention to detail and buy-in from everyone. What's most gratifying as a coach is when you walk in after the game and you see the smiles on these people's faces. They put a lot into those games, and it's nice to see the fellas get rewarded. Hi.
Hi again. Talking about Niemelainen, he brings an element that not a lot of players maybe in today's game bring, and like playing defense aside, just how valued is that element where he likes to light guys up whenever possible?
Yeah, I think for Marcus, he's someone who brings a dimension. And for most young players that are trying to crack an everyday lineup spot in the National Hockey League, you have to do something very well, or something that at least sets you apart. And I think for Marcus, his dimension is his physicality. It's dimensional physicality. I think other teams take note when he's on the ice. He has a real knack with his timing, so that he's not necessarily running out of position to make the hit. And for a big man, he skates well and closes quickly. So I think he's added something here to our back end.
Is that a character trait that just has to come naturally to a guy? I mean, coaches are always asking their players to finish the checks and that sort of thing, and he seems to kind of just relish it.
Yeah, I didn't know much about Marcus Niemelainen when I came down to Bakersfield a year and a half ago. And as I got to know him and watch him operate on a daily basis, how he conducted himself in practice and what he brought to the table and come game time, I grew to really appreciate what he brought on a day-by-day basis. For me, I think the style of game that we want to play suits Marcus's style of play.
Jay, with you and Dave, you played 7 defensemen in Bakersfield fairly regularly. Does Dave run it all and you just run the fours? How does that communication work between the two of you, on the in-game transitions, when which guy is going? Because there's not a lot of continuity amongst pairs for the most part when you got 7.
Yeah, the way I would say it is, first of all, it's a coaching staff decision to go 7. So that includes Brian and Glenn, Dustin, and Jeremy as well as Jay and Dave. We come in the morning, we talk about what we think is going to give us the best opportunity to win the game at night. When you're on the bench in those situations, it's atypical. It is not a normal thing to have where you can't just run out pair after pair after pair. And to be able to find the minutes appropriate for everyone is a skill, and that's been honed over time. As you said, we've had the experience of that, and how it works nuts and bolts wise. Dave runs the defense on the bench. If I can pick up who I believe is going to come, I might be able to help him out, but he has a pretty good understanding of what he expects is coming over the boards for the other team, and we just try and, it's our philosophy as a coaching staff here in Edmonton, and we just want the right people on the ice at the right times.
Your 5-on-5 play as a team, the last 11 games, and specifically the last 3, has been much better, kind of reminiscent when you were here in 17. If you win the 5-on-5 battle, you got a better chance to win. Your power play isn't at the level that they want to be, and it's been a few months. I know you don't get to change everything right away. We saw last game, you had Kane and Yamamoto out with McDavid and Draisaitl. What do you need to see from the 3 games that you've coached from your power play? What are the small little adjustments to get them back to being one of the more dangerous?
Yeah, I'll go to the start of your question there. I would say that we have had one practice in the last few days where this staff is together. So we had to pick the parts of the game that we wanted to put import on. And that's not one that we have started with. But I actually, in the 3 games that I've watched, I've seen the power play create chances. It scored a big goal for us against the New York Islanders. In San Jose, I thought Reimer made some big saves on that, against our power play. And we had some good looks in LA too. So for me, you worry when you're not getting those types of chances. Do we want the conversion rate to be improved over the last 3 games? Sure. But when you see our players generating momentum for our team, we know it's just a matter of time before we start getting the results that we want.
You, when you were assistant coach, you're in charge of a power play, so you've been in power plays for a long time. How much of it is coaching, and then how much of it is just the skill of the players? Because there's a lot of ad-libbing at times, right? There's a broken play, and then boom, they got to think. So how much can you really coach on a power play compared to the player, just them capitalizing?
Well, I think there's a foundation you lay going back to training camp of the things that you look for, principles that you want to see being put into place. I think there's an accounting for the other team's penalty kill, so relying on some pre-scout information, and through experience you learn where you've had success versus different types of penalty kills. I think Glenn does a heck of a job with the power play. I think he's got a great term that I really, really like, which is sometimes when power plays are really clicking, it's almost like road hockey out there. It's just, there's a flow, there's a natural flow to it. And you know, like I said, I think the power play is an asset for our team. And like I said, you worry when you're not getting the chances. But over the 3 games that we've been together, I've been pleased with the amount of chances generated.
Jay, a lot of people would say, gee, Stuart Skinner got a shutout last game and he's back in the minors. How come? Is that just the way things work? I mean, you've got 2 veteran goaltenders and he couldn't stay up here?
Well, not only do we have 2 veteran goaltenders, but I think Mike Smith, over the last couple of games that I've seen him play, has been a real factor in us securing the 4 points in the games that he played in. So that's number 1. Mikko is returning from COVID protocol, as everyone knows, and I believe he was 4-0-1 before he went into that COVID protocol. So for me, you know, those 2 players, or those 2 goaltenders, give us a real good chance to win. For Stuart Skinner, he gave an unbelievable account of himself in that San Jose game, but he's a young man and he has to play games. And so he's in a good spot there at Bakersfield to make sure he's getting the reps that he needs and the starts that he needs. And the best thing is he has got a lot of equity with not only the coaching staff and our organization, but also the players in this dressing room as well.
You mentioned you didn't see all of the Canadian women's game last night. I presume you were watching the Anaheim-Calgary game instead. What'd you see from that game?
Well, I think Anaheim's had a heck of a year. They're a team with a lot of skill up front, some young skill up front. Their goaltenders have posted really good numbers on the year and give them a chance to win. And I think, you know, based on the way their game went last night, we should expect a team that's going to come in laser focused. And we better be ready tonight because it's an important game for both teams.
One last question. Derek Ryan on the wing as opposed to center. What do you see from him on the wing that a normal center, you know, is there something different you're seeing on the wing, or is he just a portable player who can move over?
Yeah, I think he's a real versatile player for our team. I see a high level of hockey intelligence. He's somebody who I feel comfortable with Nuge, because if Nuge ends up being the first forechecker and Derek Ryan ends up down low in the zone, I feel comfortable with him. what I've seen over 3 games is someone that makes a lot of really subtle but very important plays on the ice surface. So happy with where he's at, and he's done a good job for us.
Anything new on Duncan Keith or anything more specific? Are we?
Nothing more specific. He's progressing. I think every day that goes by, he's feeling a little bit healthier, and he's an important part of our back end, but nothing imminent or in the next day or two.
Okay, I would ask you if Chris Russell's close, and I would ask you if there's any other lineup changes tonight you care to share with us.
And I would tell you that same answer for Chris. He's progressing from where he's at. He's getting closer, but nothing imminent today or tomorrow.
One last question is the John Anderson hire down there your recommendation, Colin Schock's recommendation, Keith Gretzky's recommendation? Where did this come about?
Not my recommendation. I don't know John, but I know his reputation and his history as a coach in both the American Hockey League, the IHL, and also the National Hockey League. His reputation speaks for itself. I have had not a lot of contact just because it's been a whirlwind over the last few days up in Edmonton with our team here. I did see a few members of the Condors staff that made it down to LA and had a brief chat after the game, but I didn't get into the weeds on that, so sorry I can't help you any further with that, Jim.
Just one question for me, Jay. I'm just curious. You guys are playing so many games. You just, got hired for this position a week ago. How do you balance focusing on what your team needs to do and what your opponents do, or what you need to do, against your opponent? How do you balance those two things?
Well, the first thing that we think a lot about is managing the energy reservoir of our team. And what do I mean by that? On one hand, it's physical, so not skating them unnecessarily, making sure we're getting what we need and nothing we don't need on the ice. But there's also the mental side to that, which is I don't believe in paralyzing a team with too much information. We want our players to play instinctually. We don't want them overcooking it or overthinking it or to be pauses in their game. We want them to play with a natural flow. That said, I would say over the last, since we came up last week, we've put greater emphasis on what we're doing as a team, but we still pay attention to what the other team is bringing, because each team we've played presents different challenges, and at the end of the day, we want to give our players the tools they need to be successful. So if there's little things that the Anaheim Ducks are doing, we will certainly highlight that, and most importantly, try and give them some tools to be successful.
So are you relying on other members of your staff to, I guess, as you get more familiar with, details about each team that you play, are you relying more on other members of your staff perhaps to, help put together a scouting report or something like that? I
would say that we have a very collaborative environment in our coaching room, and everybody has a say. We do a lot of collective work. We go our separate ways, certainly, but when we come together, we discuss everything, and I'm quite comfortable with everybody that we have on staff. I think everybody brings different attributes to the table, and I would be remiss if I didn't tap into that resource. So certainly as a staff, we try and work together.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.